Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy. Mi nombre es Ivonne Ortiz. Soy la directora de entrenamiento y asistencia técnica para el National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. Buenas tardes de nuevo. Hello again. My name is Ivonne Ortiz. I am the director of technical assistance and training for the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. And before we start, I would like to invite our interpreters to give us some instructions on how to access interpretation. Antes de comenzar, quiero invitar a nuestros intérpretes a que nos den unas ayuditas de cómo accesar la interpretación para la sesión de hoy.
Thank you, Ivonne. Buenas tardes a todos. Felicitamos a los organizadores de este evento por su firme determinación de facilitar la comunicación bilingüe hoy. Mi nombre es Mojde, mi cointérprete es Megan y representamos a la Cooperativa de Justicia del Lenguaje Tilde y estaremos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea inglés-español y español-inglés. Good afternoon, everybody. We congratulate the organizers of this event for their firm commitment to facilitating bilingual communication. My name is Mojde, my co-interpreter is Megan, and we represent the Tilde Language Justice Cooperative. We'll be providing English-Spanish and Spanish-English simultaneous interpretation. Si usted se unió a la reunión con su teléfono, por favor, asegúrese de entrar con el app de Zoom para poder acceder a interpretación. Esta función no está disponible en los Chromebook. If you joined on your phone, please make sure to join on the Zoom app so that you can access interpretation. Please note that this is not available on Chromebook. Si usted quiere escuchar y participar en español, por favor seleccione su canal de idioma, haciendo clic abajo a la derecha de su pantalla de Zoom, en el globito si usa una computadora o en los tres puntitos si está conectado por teléfono. Seleccione interpretación, luego español y luego picarle en Done o listo. If you want to listen and participate in English, and this means hearing interpretation into English if anybody speaks in Spanish, make sure to select your language channel. Go to the bottom right-hand corner of your Zoom screen, click on the globe if you're using a computer or the three dots if you're connected by phone. Select interpretation, then click English and click Done at the end. Algunas pautas para crear un espacio multilingüe, a few guidelines for creating multilingual spaces. Yo estoy hablando rápido porque estoy dando la introducción en ambos idiomas, pero ustedes, por favor, no hablen muy rápido. Y si no están hablando, por favor, pongan su audio en silencio. I'm speaking fast because I'm doing this introduction in both languages, but y'all, please don't speak fast. And please, if you're not speaking, mute yourself. Por último, les vamos a recordar que por favor hablen una persona a la vez en un idioma por oración y solo hablen en el idioma del canal que escogieron. Si usted es bilingüe español-inglés, no necesita escoger un canal y puede hablar en cualquiera de esos dos idiomas. Lastly, I remind you to please speak one person at a time with one language per sentence and only speak in the language of the channel you chose. Estos espacios se crean con el apoyo de todos. Por favor, comunique cualquier problema por el chat o habilitando su micrófono. Gracias. We create these spaces with everyone's support, so please communicate any issues by chat or turning on your volume. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you to our interpreters. And again, thank you for joining us today. And welcome to our webinar title, One Thing to Care for Advocates, Mind, Body, and Soul. And today's session is going to focus on health to heal. So before we start, I would like to tell you a little bit about NRCDV. If this is your first time joining one of our sessions, we want to ask you to follow us on social media so that you can learn about all the great events and resources that we're developing every month for you guys. NRCDV is a technical assistance provider working to strengthen the capacity of programs responding to domestic violence victims and their families by promoting effective public policy, institutional response and research, and engagement in prevention. Today, through our key initiatives and special projects, NRCDV works with many other organizations and partners who bring various expertise, backgrounds, and perspectives to improve community response to domestic violence and ultimately prevent its occurrence. And right now you're seeing our NRCDV stand, and it's a form of accountability because we're committed to end racism and to become an anti-racist organization. And today, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, Carol Kennedy. She's a transformation coach and CEO of Emerald Image. Carol Kennedy is a health and transformation coach who assists her clients with tools, skills, and mindset shifts to improve their health. Clients are able to build habits that foster longevity and sustainability. Known for her powerful and insightful teaching, she has served as a conference speaker at various women's conferences. Carol earned her BA from Oral Roberts University in Christian Counseling and her MA from Liberty University in Interdisciplinary Studies. Carol loves to travel and spend time with family and her fur baby Mocha. And please in the chat, help me say happy birthday to Carol, who is having a birthday today. So in the chats and wonderful messages to her. Happy birthday, Carol. And we are so excited to have you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. I'm so happy to be here sharing with you on today. I look forward to all that we will share and impart today. But more than anything, my heart is for all the work that you all do. And I hope that I can bring something today that will be helpful, stimulating, and get you to rethink how you're taking care of your bodies, because you are very important, not only to the world, but for yourself. So again, I thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you also for all the birthday wishes that I see right now. That's just warming my heart. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, hello again to everyone. We want to saddle up and put our seatbelts on today. We're going to take a ride. We're going to take a ride in regards to how we're taking care of this vehicle called our bodies, because our bodies are a vehicle. If you can kind of think about that as we're going along, it may connect the dots a little bit better. So whether you consider yourself a Bentley, a Rolls Royce, Toyota, BMW, Camry, a 4x4, whatever it is, just remember your body is a vehicle and it needs to be in good condition to take you where you want to go. Hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So the presentation on today is called Health to Heal. We need to be healthy and vibrant. I'll tell you, and I'll get into it in a moment, that was not my testimony 3 years ago. I was barely existing, but we'll get there. And if you notice, the 4 letters in the beginning of health spell heal. So when we are healthy, we can begin to heal even our minds, our spirits, our persona, as far as our attitudes. There's a lot that goes into being or comes into being when we begin to heal our bodies. It's just not our bodies, it's also our minds as well. So if I can have the next slide, please. So here's my story. The picture on the left was me October. This is funny because we're in October right now. October of 2019. That was where I was on the left-hand side. I was an emotional eater, and I still work very hard on that to this day. I was sacrificing my health for the sake of being busy. We'll discuss that further on. But I'd like you to ask yourself, even now, Do I wear busyness as a badge? We'll come back to that. I believe some myths that, oh, you're of age now where, you're not going to be able to keep your weight at a current or a lower number. It just comes with age, I was told. That's a myth. I was investing more in others than my well-being because I thought it was selfish to really take care of myself. And now I have to say I am enjoying life. Even in the midst of challenges, I'm in learning how to enjoy the moment. I have had mindset shifts where it comes to food, and if it's really needed to have a good time or not. And I have continuous health shifts and mind shifts. This is a journey. It's not a marathon. It is a journey that you will take. And really learning to be a good steward over my temple that I have been given stewardship over. My body is a gift that I've been given, and I'm learning and had to learn how to be a good steward over it. So I did go from the left picture to the right picture, and that's all well and fine. It's okay to want to look good, but what really began to heal was my mind. And so we'll journey to that in a moment. Next slide, please. So one question to ask yourself, because physical weight is more than just a number on a scale. Physical weight has to do with how we're feeling, even on the inside. Even if your numbers on the scale are where you want it, we still have to look at how are we taking care of our mental capacity. What are we eating in regards to how we're feeling? There are so many other factors that just go into more than just the number on the scale. So how did we get here as a country, as a whole? And basically, we're living in a fast-paced, technology advanced world. We can now obtain just about anything with a call or a click. You can order groceries, supplies, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your doggy supplies. You can order so many things you can just order with a click of a button. Not only that, everything nowadays as far as fast food is supersized. So you have supersized meals, restaurant portions can be as much as 8 times the standard serving size listed in the FDA dietary guidelines. Calories consumed and the calories we use are imbalanced. And we're confronted with food that are plentiful and addictive. We'll look at that soon. And then lastly, our day-to-day lifestyle. We are sitting more. We're not walking as much. We're not exercising as much as back in the day when we didn't have these Ubers and being able to order anything offline. We walked more. We rode our bikes more. So now we're sitting at a desk and additional sitting while watching TV. Those of us who work from home, we know now we're sitting more even at home. Whereas before, when we worked in the office, we could get up, walk around, go outside, or I should say we would get up, go outside, walk around. Now, and I can't speak for all, but if you work for home, you're probably going from kitchen to your desk to maybe go wash some clothes. So everything is in your home and we're not getting out as much. Next slide, please. All right, I hope you all can see this. This is the history of the dinner plate, okay? This is not helping us right now at all. I am just going to look at my screen just a little bit because that's a little bit small for me. So I'm just going to tell you what it says. We started out with an 8.5-inch eating plate. That was around the 1960s. The dinner plate basically was about 8.5 to 9 inches, and it held about 800 calories. Then we moved around the 1980s to a 10-inch dinner plate that holds about 1,000 calories, basically 20 kcal increase, so a 20% increase in calories. Then in the 2000s, we moved to an 11-inch dinner plate that holds about 1,600 calories. And you can see calorically that increase is 33%. Now look where we are. 2009, the dinner plate increased to 12 inches. That holds 1,900 calories. And from the previous 2000s, that is about a 15% increase in your caloric intake. So I want you all to realize it's not really all of our fault what has happened. Without our even knowing or being cognitive of what's happening, the dinner plate has changed. And if you're like me or were like what I used to do, I didn't like to see space on my plate. Maybe it's just me. I pretty much would fill my plate, especially if I had starved myself all day and was having one meal. I figured I would put everything on it to make up for the meals that I didn't have, which wasn't good either. So as you can see, our plate size has increased over the years, which is not helping us. Any questions so far? If there's a question or a comment, I'd like to take it. If not, we'll go to the next slide.
Hi, Carol. This is Brecken. There haven't been any questions in the chat yet. Just shock and awe at this visual.
It was shocking for me the first time I saw it as well. Thank you. Next slide. So how many of you know that colors can stimulate your appetite? I wasn't aware of that until I started doing some research. So your appetite can be stimulated by a couple of colors, but the ones that stand out the most are red and yellow. Those colors invoke the taste buds and they stimulate the appetite. These colors are also effective at grabbing a person's attention. Yes, I see it in the chat. Somebody said McDonald's. Absolutely. Yellow has the power to stimulate the appetite and may put a person in a good mood. And I skipped over red, so let me go back. Red makes us feel impulsive and hungry. The use of these colors are used in the fast food industry marketing strategy. So I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but if you've seen the commercial on TV or you passed by a McDonald's and then all of a sudden you said, hey, I'm going to swing over there and I'm going to get some fries, or I'm going to get whatever you decide to get when you get there, but you really weren't even hungry. Those colors stimulated your brain. And we'll talk about what happens after that. I see a comment in the chat. I wasn't able to read it. Can someone read that for me? Someone said that's interesting.
Yeah, Nana says that is interesting when thinking about the foods that I eat.
You're being stimulated and you don't even know it unconsciously. So that's why I said at the beginning, a lot of this we don't know. Marketing knows, and it's really not our fault because we don't know why we're being stimulated or how we're stimulating and the subtleties that are happening. Okay, next slide. Someone just named all of the the companies that use those colors. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I put a little blurb out there. This was what I saw the week I decided to make a change. And it basically says, if you don't like where you're headed, change your direction. Basically, this was my bullseye to my mind that enough was enough. And I had to do something about where I was. I'm going to stop right here and just say I was on high blood pressure medicine for 10 years at that point. Prior to that, maybe 2 months before, I was singing at church on our praise and worship team and almost passed out. No one knew except for me because I just kind of handled it undercover until we were off the platform. I didn't tell anybody. I just basically was finished my part. So I was just silently breathing to gather myself together so I wouldn't hit the floor. So all of these things were happening prior, and this little picture basically got me where I was most vulnerable to make a change. All right, entropy, the natural tendency of things to lose order. Life happens, and before we know it, we have not consistency, or I should say consistently, excuse me for the typo, taking care of our bodies or our mind. The good news, you can recover. You can begin to make better choices for your health and longevity. The good news is if you're still here, you have time to reverse some habits that you have and even some health concerns that you have. Now, I am not a doctor. I am not a registered nurse. I'm going to go and say that on public record. What I do know is what I've researched and what I've been able to accomplish by making better food choices and losing weight, 60 pounds to be exact, over time. Okay, so with that said, I was down a wrong spiral. And as I started making changes, then over time, my health began to improve. So I just wanted to be transparent and let you know that this is something I experienced firsthand. Life got out of control, and with it, me taking care of my body. Any questions or comments right here at this point in the chat?
Still no questions, but yeah, folks have been reflecting on their experiences with fast food, and Zachary Fisher says, when exactly where I've been lately, when you shared the, if you don't like where you're headed, change your direction.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the effects of what I call SLD. What is that, Carol? I'm glad you asked. So SLD is stress. The body's response to stress is survival mode. And guess what it does? It starts to produce cortisol. This hormone, which aids in regulating the body's metabolism, can also contribute to an increase in insulin levels. And I'm going to add right here, most of the time, not all, but majority of the time, you will see cortisol build up in your midsection. So that little pooch around our stomach section, that's where it builds. Okay. Lack of sleep for the L. Some may eat more calories per day than those who are receiving adequate sleep. A sleep-deprived body can stimulate the hormone ghrelin, your appetite. So I can't speak for everyone, but I will tell you, when I was getting my master's degree is when I gained the most weight. I was not sleeping. There were times I was up 2 to 3 days straight because I was working on papers around the clock to finish my master's. With that said, to stay awake, I was eating basically every kind of sugary substance I could find and drinking a lot of caffeine to stay awake and keep my momentum up. So lack of sleep plays a lot of, has a lot to do with, I'll say, it plays a major role in us maintaining our mind functions and our body functions, okay? When you sleep, your body actually repairs itself. And then D, depression. Depression can magnify stress, disrupt sleep patterns, and encourage eating as a coping mechanism to manage emotions. So keep that little acronym in your mind, SLD. How am I doing in this area? Stress, lack of sleep, and am I experiencing any form of depression? All right, next slide. And I didn't mention it, but the little line underneath the previous slide said emotional mismanagement. Emotional mismanagement on this slide can show up in many ways in our lives: eating, starvation, triggers, drinking, being a workaholic, etc. So again, weight is more than the scale. Improving your health also involves working through emotions and working the mental gymnasium. The mental gymnasium is where we begin to really look at how we cope with life. Do we shut down? Do we hide? Do we use food emotionally? Are we eating to comfort ourselves? What are we replacing to soothe ourselves when life gets difficult or when our schedules are packed? The mindset about food will need to change. And I just wrote there, discard the actions that are not serving your desires. Okay, so this takes time. It will not happen overnight. The first point is realization and really taking a look at, how do I process things? Am I one who takes a lot and then unfortunately at some point I explode? Do I tuck it away in a nice little corner and say I'll get to it later, but then over times they change? All of those things would need to be looked at. I think someone had a question.
Yes. Bunny asked, did you have to get help learning to work through emotional mismanagement, or were you able to reset on your own?
So twofold. This is going to sound really funny, but because my degree, my bachelor's degree is in counseling, and I went to a Christian university, the assignments that we were given first had me deal with me. And I will tell you, many nights, and even with my master's degree, many nights, the pen pointed towards me first before I could write the paper. So there were many nights of crying, many nights of wanting to be, what's the word I want to use, in denial. But really, the pen came to me first. In the area of how food played a part, when I started my health journey, I actually had a coach in that area. And after 2 months of being guided with my coach, I decided to become a coach. So that's how I actually started coaching, because I wanted the world to know the success that I started having with some adjustments. And I wanted to help others to be guided through that as well. I hope that answered your question. So in a nutshell, yes, I had help on twofolds. One as I wrote my papers, and one when I decided to work on my physical health. I thought it was just going to be about eating, but it was so much more than that. More than anything, getting off the hamster's wheel of habits that are not good for me was the biggest challenge, because your mind wants to automatically revert when a challenge comes up. You want to go back to what you know or what you used to do, even if it's not serving you. Thank you, Bunny. That was excellent. Any more questions before we go on?
Not so far. Thank you so much, Carol.
All right, next. All right, here are some questions to ponder. Do you drink a minimum of 64 ounces of water a day? Put a 1 in the chat if you do that. I just want to see. No judgment. Good. Yay. Awesome. All right. Number 2. Are you getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep consistently? Put a 2 in the chat. A lot more responses there, okay? Do you spend time planning your meals. 3, yep. Good, Shannon, good, good. They're coming up fast, okay. All right, no judgment. Here's one. I don't know how quickly you'll answer. Do you self-sabotage? Put a 4. Thank you for being transparent. I appreciate that. Because I get it. I'm there. Even though I have moved on over somewhat, it's a day-to-day thing. Awesome. 5, do you treat your body with tender, loving care, or do you give your body leftovers? Not food, time. Okay. Good. Good, 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 good. If you have not taken a screenshot of this, I'm going to give you a moment to do so, because once this webinar is over, I really wanted you this week or this weekend to really ponder these questions for yourself. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that. All right, next slide. Okay, so it is a vicious cycle as far as our health and well-being. What do I mean a vicious cycle? So normally when we go into any type of health journey, or we make that New Year's resolution, right? Every January 1st, I'm going back to the gym. Listen, when I tell you the health clubs have such a vast increase in people who sign up for classes or membership the first of the year, that first week of the year, they get so many clients because, you know, a lot, I won't say everyone, many people make that New Year's resolution with all good intentions. I'm going to go back to the gym. I'm going to work out, or maybe I'm going to walk more, or I am going to go on a quote unquote diet. And there are so many out there to choose from companies. Now I'm seeing that, and I'm, you know, just saying what I'm seeing, no judgment, to teas, to patches that you can put on your arm. There's just so many things out there. Keto, Mediterranean, Dr. Atkins, you got Jenny Craig, you have, I don't even know if Nutrisystem is still out there. You have just so many things. And I can speak to that because I used to be a professional dieter. When I say that, I am being very literal, and I can tell you any program that was in force before November 12th of 2019, Carol tried it. And when I say every, I mean every, from the phentermine to the shots, to just about every program I just mentioned, to smoothies, to, I've tried it, you guys. I did it all. I did it all basically before that time frame. Anything that's come out after the month and year I gave you, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to before that time frame. So it's a vicious cycle. Typically, a change is based on solving a problem or trying to discard an unwanted situation. Hence the New Year's resolution. right? The cycle is you feel bad or uncomfortable with the situation, we do. In order to end the current emotional conflict, we take action. However, once the pressure has resided, the old pattern returns. What do I mean by that? So you start a program or you put some things in place to begin. You feel real good about it the first week, and you may do it for a while. It may start out consistent, or you may have some peaks and valleys. As you begin to lose the weight and you start feeling good in your body and in your mind, it may be a life event that comes and kind of knocks you out of your day-to-day routine. Or what I see happens is that the urgency that you once had, or we once had, because I got to add myself, when we first started, is no longer as urgent because we've received some kind of relief. So what happens at that point is we begin to deviate from what we started to eventually we're not doing it at all. I hope that makes sense, how that cycle is. And then eventually we'll start again. The ball will get rolling. Something happens maybe to throw us out of what we are doing. Then we get discouraged. Then we may even beat up on ourselves mentally. And then we're no longer exercising the tools or using the tools that we need to. That is the vicious cycle. Lastly, reducing the discomfort reduces your motivation to act. So we start well, we have good intentions, we're on a roll for a little bit, even though it may be challenging what we're doing. We start seeing some results, and then the urgency starts lifting. And we're not as consistent as we were until eventually we stop what we're doing to yield the results we once wanted. Any questions before I go over the little picture here?
Not so far, no.
Okay. So a diet mentality focuses on food as the enemy. A diet mentality focuses on my bad habits. Diet mentality focuses on things I'm doing temporarily. Diet mentality basically looks at things I don't like about myself as a motivating factor. Diet mentality basically is concerned solely with the scale. And then a diet mentality has a finish line. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever said, oh, I got an event coming up. I got to lose weight to fit into whatever. Or I'm going on vacation. Or I'm going to do whatever. Yep, been there too. So that is a diet mentality. The first 3 letters of a diet spell die. Is that funny? The first time I saw it, I went, wow. Diet. But if you're focusing more on, I want to be healthy, then we said it earlier, the first 4 letters of health is heal. And that mentality looks at food differently. It looks at food as fuel. Just like you have to put the right gas. Remember, we talked about your body as a vehicle. As we have to put the right gas in our cars for the car to run effectively, right? So if we have a vehicle that says it only takes unleaded, then we can't put leaded. More and more these new cars say it only takes premium unleaded. So you can't even put regular gas. What if you have a vehicle that is a diesel and you put unleaded gas in it? That car is tore up, basically. So a health mentality looks at food as fuel for the body. It concentrates on my good habits. It looks at whatever I'm doing, something I'm going to do forever, not a quick fix. And then things that I want for myself longevity wise. Looks at daily choices. And finally, a lifelong journey. So a health mentality looks at the total picture, more and more of not a quick fix, but how am I taking care of my body to be the best version of myself I can be? What can I do? Again, it's not going to be overnight. This is something that you will do each day until it forms a habit. I've heard different things that a habit takes 30 days. I've heard 27, but it's been my experience, and I'm saying my experience and those that I've coached, it takes 66 days for a habit, small practices done consistently to become a habit. 66 days. So you can see how if I'm starting something and I give up before that time frame, yes, the body is then retraining itself to start over. And that's where we lose enthusiasm and the will to want to do it, because we feel like we're starting over because the habit hasn't been cemented yet. I hope that made sense, and I hope that slide gave you some good nuggets there on the differences between a diet and health. All right. Next slide. Improving your health. Time. It will require an investment of time. So the first step basically is going to be deciding what you want to accomplish. If you all, for me right now, we're going to just do some interacting writing. If you don't have a sheet of paper, but your phone is there and you have the notepad on your phone, please indulge me. This is for your own personal eyes only. If you can just take a moment right now and say what you would like to accomplish starting today and how you would like to finish the year in regards to your health. If you say, Carol, I'm already doing all of those habits, are you doing them consistently? And if not, which area needs improvement? Let me give you a couple of seconds there. All right. Next, why is it important for you to accomplish what you desire? Take a moment. And if you have to come back to it, that's fine. But I have a funny feeling that you know, if you say, I just need help, that was me, because I knew I had tried just about everything and nothing worked consistently for me. So I knew I needed help. I just needed help. We talked about what tools would you need. We asked, why is it important for you to accomplish? Oh, I think I skipped that. Why is it important for you to accomplish what you desire? Let's take a moment there. Here's a question to ponder as well. What will success look like for you? What would that look like? How would you show up for yourself? How would you then be able to show up for your family? Even for you being an advocate, how would you show up in that? You may say, well, Carol, I feel like I'm showing up fine. Would there be any improvement if you felt better in your health on how you showed up? I can tell you one of the biggest things I noticed is I no longer had that 2 to 3 o'clock, sometimes 3:30 brain fog during the day. I don't know how many of you can attest to that, but it felt like every day between 2, 3, sometimes 3:30, my mind would just crash. I would be tired, very tired. And that no longer is happening. My energy level is just crazy. Good, in a good way. All right. What is the method of accountability that you have? Who can you partner with for accountability? Many times that is the main thing that we're missing. We have nobody that we're being accountable to in regards to our health. Who could you have to be your accountability partner? Next, please, 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 I'm asking you on my birthday, set realistic goals, because that is also a part of that vicious cycle that hurts us. We set an unrealistic goal and it becomes hard to achieve, and then it can be a catalyst for giving up. Set realistic goals. And you see my picture there. You didn't gain all your weight in one day. You won't lose it in one day. Be patient with yourself. My favorite saying that I like to share with my clients is give yourself grace. Many times we are undoing habits that we have had for a long time of our relationship with food. So it is going to not all happen in one sitting. All right. Next slide, if there's no questions. All right. I'm going to pause right here because I don't believe some information I just thought of that I want to share with you all. And I don't have a slide for it, but I feel led to just give you some nuggets. So we were introduced to food in many different ways. We learned to use food as comfort. You'll even hear that there are some foods that are labeled comfort food. You know, I remember when I was a teenager and I had my first little boyfriend. Arlene, you're on the line, so I know you know who that is. And when it went south, I drowned myself in, you all, a gallon of ice cream by myself. And I ate a box of Entermin cookies. I think I was like 17. And so I'll never forget that, because of course I was sick the next day. But I felt like I was being comforted with that ice cream and that box of Entermin's cookies, because my heart was broken and I didn't know how to release the hurt. So I wanted a tangible way of feeling better. And so over my health journey, I have come to realize that is something that we have all learned when we were babies, whether we know it or not. Babies cry at times, but they don't always cry when they're hungry. They might be crying for something else. But what is the first thing a mom or a dad will do when the baby is crying? Who can guess in the chat? What normally happens? Anybody? Feed. Yes. Right? They'll run and check on the baby, but most of the time, right? Bottle. Thank you. Yes. So get a bottle. Yep. Once they, pick up the baby, hold the baby, hug the baby, what normally comes after that is a bottle. And that might not be the case. Also, if you grew up in a house like I grew up in, and your dinner plate was placed before you, how many of you had the parent that said, you will not be leaving this table until you eat all the food that's on your plate? Right? Bunny, thank you. Yep, that was the issue. Even you're like, I don't want any more. But these are the things we learned at an early age. So these things are now becoming habits. Right. Thank you, Marissa. You couldn't drink until you ate. Yep, I had that household as well. Absolutely. Yep, people are starving in other countries. Come on, you guys are awesome. That's awesome. These are the things that we learned. And so we take them into our adult years. We feel bad if we don't, or restaurant after we're eating. We can't just leave it here. We got to take it. And there might be some other things you may say, well, Carol, it was good. I wanted it for lunch tomorrow. And that's absolutely fine. So the other thing is, when a kid falls and you get a little scrape on the knee, or in some households, it wasn't mine, I got a lollipop to heal the hurt, to make it feel, my boo-boo feel better. Food was introduced to us basically, and I'll come back to your statement, Buddy, because I only saw half of it, to basically soothe. And yes, because of economics, food became a way of love language to help soothe certain things, depending on the times we lived in, or even the income brackets that we had. Because truth be told, in some families, the incomes just weren't there. So food basically, and nothing wrong with it, became a way of celebrating, coping, showing love, showing support, all of that. But it just became unbalanced. So not saying that our parents didn't do the best they could. They did, absolutely. And we're the better for it as far as how we grew up. We're just learning now that some things didn't serve us well. And we're learning how to make some adjustments. I'm very grateful to have had the times growing up around the dinner table with family, talking and laughing and things like that. I'm just learning now that I can still do that and not sabotage my health. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, good. Somebody grew up vegan. That's awesome. All right. Can you share some of the comments? Because I don't want to forget to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you were sharing about, especially the clean plate, was really resonating with people. Yeah, people shared some comments that I think you called out already. People are starving in other countries comment that some of us got from our parents. Not being able to drink until you ate everything. Bunny reflected on how Depression era parents couldn't help not wanting us to waste food.
Yeah.
And then Michelle shared that they grew up vegan with super healthy foods, but had the same mottos in the house.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. So a lot of times we all have the same thread. You know, whether it was vegan or, you know, different type of food. My family background is, my family is Jamaican. And when I tell you every dinner time looked like Thanksgiving spread, that's what I grew up with. It was like Thanksgiving spread every day. Yeah. And so we ate, and you ate until you were full. And that was basically how I grew up and carried that over into my adult life. So thank you all for reflecting with me as well. So if I was sharing that to say, a lot of what we learned over time, neither right, wrong, or indifferent, we're learning that there are better ways. You can still enjoy food, but look at things in moderation. And we also have to think about how our bodies process, because as we age, how it processes types of food is going to change as well. Yeah, you'll begin to see that it just doesn't want to handle certain things. And that's when we will make adjustments as well. So if you're saying, but I'm not eating, Carol, mine is the opposite. I don't eat that much during the day. That could be absolutely a factor still. So I did put here, not eating enough. We should be eating every 2 to 3 hours, small meals to keep your metabolism going. Okay. That was a struggle for me when I first started, because I thought, I don't have time to do that. And you're right. You might not have time, but we have to choose to make the time if we want our bodies to be in good condition. And there's different ways you can do that. Not drinking enough water. Minimum should be 64 ounces of water. Now, if you're like, I got that, Carol, I do that every day, I challenge you. Some people can do 100 ounces. Some are even doing 50% of their body weight. I wouldn't say for everyone to do 50% of their body weight. If you are taking certain medications, you definitely want to check in with your physician on that, because sometimes that's too much water depending on age and what medications you're taking. Okay, but at minimum, 64 ounces. Your body could be sleep deprived. 6 to 8 hours of sleep is what we need. Our bodies basically heal itself when we sleep, our cells. I call it my fat burning sleep, that I got to get my fat burning sleep, 6 to 8 hours. Also, a lot of times what hinders us in getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep is our cell phones, the blue light. when you are watching TV or on your iPad or on your phones, and you say, but I get in the bed. Okay, so you may be in the bed, but are you on your iPad? Are you on Facebook? Are you doing electronics while you're in the bed? Because that blue light that emanates from the computer, your cell phone, or your iPad will cause your brain to keep going, even though you're saying, I'm in a restful position, and it'll be hard for you to fall asleep. Okay, so it's not on the slide, but if you can, basically winding down an hour before you're going to go to bed without your cell phone, laptop, or computer will help in that area. Okay, you can do your research on it. We want to stay away from the blue light at least an hour before bed. You can listen to some music. You can maybe read a book. If you pray, you can use that time for prayer. If you do meditation, you use that time for meditation. But there should be a time of winding down and getting your mind to relax. Okay. Our sodium intake should be less than 2,300 milligrams per day, or 1 teaspoon of table salt. The next time you all go to grab anything for consumption, I want you, if you don't do it already, to turn over the back of whatever you're going to eat and just take a look at the sodium intake. Because there are many foods out there that are labeled healthy, and yes, they are, but the sodium is high. So even if you're consuming these quote unquote healthy meals, but the sodium is high, it's still going to affect you in some way eventually. Okay, so definitely begin to take a look at sodium intake. Sugar intake, men no more than 36 grams a day. Women should be no more than 25 grams. I can tell you at one point in my journey, I was having a meltdown that day, and I was like, I just want a slice of cake. I just want a slice of cake. And I was in Walmart, and they have sliced cake. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. So I stood at the sliced cake section, and I'm not exaggerating, for about 20 minutes, vacillating back and forth on whether or not I was going to get this cake. Because I was like, I'm doing so good, but I really want this cake. So I turned over the nutritional factors of the cake, and there was 53 grams of sugar. You guys, that's what made me put it down at that point. Now it may sound funny, but that was my trigger to go, you don't need it. And I just put it down. Now, am I saying that you can never have something you like? Absolutely not. I just chose at that time to not have it because I had a goal in mind at that time, and wanted to stay where I was and how I was doing, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying you can never have, cake or ice cream or something that you like. It just begins to be a factor of moderation. And if I have a goal in mind, is this getting me to my goal? Okay, and I think somebody had a question. I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, thank you. Julina asked, what is a simple way to measure the sugar?
There isn't one. Basically, you're going to be doing a lot of reading. And that was something that I never thought I would ever do. But now when I go grocery shopping, it takes me a minute because I'm a label reader now. I take the time to read labels of what I'm consuming. I just decided I was not going to put my health in somebody else's hands. I hope that makes sense. And I had to work up to that point. How much am I willing to invest to show up as my best self? So it is going to take some investment of time, of reading, finding out through trial and error what works with your body, how your body responds. It does take time. It does take time. I hope that answered your question. Was there any other questions or comments?
Juliana said that yes, it did answer their question. And
Okay.
so far, no more questions, but folks, feel free to share in the chat if you have them.
All right, I am going to stop sharing. Yeah. I see a couple more. I'm sorry.
No, it looks like, so Joanne shared a reflection that 25 grams is a difficult level to stick to when you max out that with a healthy breakfast.
Yep, you can. So with that said, you just want to be careful what you consume the rest of the day, if that makes sense, right? So if I know that, because I'll even say certain healthy granola bars and things like that have a lot of sugar as well. So I guess I have to go back to really reading the label. And when you are making, some food choices, again, it's not to say you'll never have something. You're just more intentional about what your intake is. And then along, are you getting in healthy motion, which is on the next part of this list? Because having healthy motion will also help your body to burn as well. For time, more than we should, and we don't have any healthy motion, then yeah, that's going to build up over time. Anything else, Brecken, before I finish this slide?
Yes, Nana asked, do you research the food before going shopping when you're reading the labels? What would be more convenient?
If you know what you're going to get or what you have a mind to get, then you can do that before you go. I literally am in the aisles looking on the labels for things that I may want to get. Now, as a health coach, I have tools that I give my clients that I'm coaching on glycemic levels of certain foods and different condiments and things like that work well with the body. I just couldn't do it all on this slide. But I do provide my clients a list of tools that they can use to combat having to spend several hours in the grocery store. So the tools that they have will already kind of guide them on what foods are low glycemic that will help them. Yep, someone said ketchup is full of sugar. Absolutely. It's the little condiments that we're not even aware of. All salad dressing, if I may say, is not even created equal. So that's something that's even can cause an influx in your weight. Depending if you are one who does a little, or if you do a lot of salad dressing where your salad is wet, depending on what you're using, it could be sabotaging you because it has sugar and high in fat. So those are some things I've learned from just reading labels. All right. Metabolic syndrome basically is when your metabolism is basically out of how it should function. I don't want to say out of whack, but that's what I was going to say. It's not functioning how it should. And basically that happens due to several diseases that your body may be experiencing, being diabetic, having high blood pressure, and some other things as well could cause you to be in metabolic syndrome. Lack of motion and high stress. We talked about the cortisol that your body can build up. So these are just some things why your body may not be responding right now. Next slide. And I see I'm coming up on time, so I'm going to go through these. All right. Make a decision. There are many programs and meal plans available. Do your research, okay? Whatever you choose should be sustainable and not shock your body. Please, please do not shock your body, okay? Whatever you decide to do, you should be able to be sustained and not shock your body. It should also provide you tools that you will use for life. It should also assist you with uncovering mindsets that don't serve your goal. For example, food triggers, okay? How do I handle food? What is my relationship with food? And your health journey should awaken you as well. Awaken you to new ways of consuming food where we are eating to live and not living to eat, if that makes sense, okay? The other thing when I say awaken, whatever program or whatever you decide to do, it should basically uncover why are you eating what you're eating. When I coach, I'm not so concerned many times on what my client is eating, but why they're eating what they're eating. And that starts the unraveling of maybe some habits that are not, I won't say maybe, it starts the unraveling of habits that are not serving them. So whatever decision you decide, take baby steps, but these are some things you should be considering when you're going to make your decision. Next slide. All right. Improving your health weight-wise will slow down the aging process. I am a witness for that, for sure. Dramatically lower your risk of developing diabetes. If you have diabetes, it can arrest and even reverse its progression. Can lower your risk for liver and gallbladder disease. Eliminate sleep apnea. Help you to breathe better. Lower your risk for heart attack or stroke. And you all, just 10% reduction in your weight can lower your risk of disease by over 50%. That's staggering. Just 10%. Any questions before I think that's my last one almost.
We don't have any new questions, but folks, feel free to drop them in the chat now.
I hope this was helpful.
Oh, it was helpful, let me tell you. And I was remembering when I used to provide direct services. We were working, in the shelter, you're working in, let's say, crisis all the time, and you would grab whatever, was in the kitchen. I mean, and there was always pastries. For some reason, inside our domestic violence programs, there were always cakes, muffins. So you would just grab whatever. I remember that, the weight, starting to put weight, and then the stress. So this was a very, very needed conversation. We've been talking for 3 weeks about our advocates' health and wellness. And we needed to talk about food. We have a very unhealthy relationship with food.
Food, yes, yes, yes. I love the saying, I'm now learning to eat to live
Yes.
instead of living to eat. And if we can change our mind to think of food, just a simple twist of thinking of food as fuel,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it makes it different to be mindful. You wouldn't intentionally pull up to the gas station and put diesel in your car when it's unleaded that it needs.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's the
I love
same
that.
thing. It's the same thing for our bodies.
Yeah.
So definitely you start pulling back layers and uncovering. Now, thank you for sharing that, Yvonne. What I would say to advocates, because yes, God bless you, you are doing so much on the front line. One thing that could help you is at night, start planning. Take a bag of nuts, not too many, but take a bag of some nuts, walnuts, things, some veggie sticks, something that can curb your appetite until you can get the appropriate meal in.
That's a great idea. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Carol.
Thank
And while we
you.
wait for questions, please, your comments, put them in the chat. I want to remind everyone that October 26th, that's next week, we are going to have a policy. The registration should be in the chat. We want to invite everyone to learn about public policy, and that's October the 26th from 2 to 4:30. And we're talking about health today, and you mentioned about moving, a little bit of movement. Well, we have it for you. We're hosting a virtual dance party for all the advocates, for all of you. It's free, and it's going to be on October the 28th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are collaborating with Be Dance Initiative from Atlanta, Be Creative, and Torion, she's the owner, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So I hope that you guys can register and join us for that event. And there's the registration. Thank you, Brecken. And we want to hear from you. So please take out your phones. You see the QR code right there. We'll take you to our survey. And we want to hear about, how this information resonated with you, about any topics that you would like for us to address during, our yearly series of trainings at NRCDV, and just about yourself, just, connect with us. So there's your QR code, and also we're going to have the link to our survey in the chat, and you will receive, again, the link to our survey, the link to this presentation, to the recording, and to the slides in a follow-up email. So let's see. Brecken, do we have any questions, any comments?
No, just folks expressing gratitude for this presentation. And I do want to uplift Julina's comment that food is fuel, not evil.
Yes.
Thank you for echoing that from the presentation, Jolina.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Carol, any last thoughts?
I just, again, thank you all for allowing me to share my journey. I feel blessed to be able to share with others of what is possible. Just very grateful for this platform and all the work that you all do, and for the advocates. Listen, I want you to be able to have longevity and to continue to do what you're doing. And so this is just a little share of how you can continue to be your best selves by taking care of your body. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Carol. Happy birthday.
Thank you. 55. I feel good.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our interpreters. You're magnificent, and you allow for us to make this, space multilingual. Thank you so much. And all of you that joined us today, please follow us on social media so that you can learn about Team 55 and Fantabulous. Yes, Arlene. but so that you can, learn about all of our events. And I will see you then next time. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you to the NRCDB team for making this space wonderful, as always. De nada, Mauro.